Don Bailey would love to have a cakewalk every now and then, but this ball club is not going to do that. They're going to get great pitching, some timely hitting, good defense. And when you have all those ingredients, add them all up, it's going to be 1- and 2-run ball games.
Broken bat flare, left field, base hit. Ricky around third. Here comes the throw. Ricky fell down. And now the Cubs have runners all over the place. Fasano throws to second. Girardi in a rundown between first and second. Helton lets Girardi off the hook. Nobody's at first. There's the tag out runner coming home. He is out. Safe. Cubs win. Cubs win. Cubs win. What a crazy way to end the game.
Unbelievable. It was a play after play before, and now Angel Hernández calls him safe. What a way to end the game.
Dennis Eckersley first coined the term walk-off to refer to when a pitcher gives up a game-winning home run that is so deep, the pitcher doesn't look. He just walk off the mound. But nowadays, when we talk about walk-offs, it's when the home team wins on a play, on that winning run scoring. And so today on Crafting the Call, we ask, how do you broadcast a walk-off? I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, voice of the Lansing Lugnuts.
I'm Josh Suchon, play-by-play announcer for the Albuquerque Isotopes. Jesse, I get a lot of walk-offs in the Pacific Coast League. It feels like every week there's at least one, if not two. So I'm excited for this episode to break down what others have done, compare it to what you and I have done on our calls.
I feel like you get the reps. I don't get so many reps in calling a walk-off like you do.
Look, there's a lot of offense in the Pacific Coast League. There's some high-altitude ballparks. It's just high scoring. So we like to say that no lead is safe in Albuquerque. I feel like every year there's at least 3. I think there was one year we had 8 alone, not to mention the ones that we gave up on the road. The day before we recorded this episode, the Isotopes lost on a walk-off in Oklahoma City. So, yeah, walk-offs they're a challenge. They're super fun. And so let's get into what we just saw. Mayhem with the Cubs and the Rockies. Where do you want to begin?
Well, I want to begin with the camera shot suddenly of the crowd. And you're going, I guess the play is over. Now we're going to shoot the stands. Oh, wait, the play's still ongoing. Oh, now we got a tag at first. Oh, now we got a runner breaking for home. It felt like this play had paused and then restarted.
One of the things that I like to do frequently in the 9th inning when the game's on the line is to consistently say, Tyne runs at second, Winnie runs at first, or whatever the scenario is. And I do that for the audience, but I mostly do it for myself. I want to keep reminding myself, where's the Tyne run? Where's the winning run? So we get into that call, Cubs, Rockies, mayhem, guy falls down, analyst is talking over play-by-play. The one thing that I really like was they got runners all over the place. I think that's a really good phrase. They've got runners all over the place. At one point, I think they say, they let him go. So many words have been said that it's hard to keep track. But the most important thing there at the end is the announcer says out when the runner is safe. And I think that this is the number one takeaway for me is don't call it yourself. You're not the umpire. Wait for the umpire to say. Even if you have to wait and wait and wait. A phrase that I've started to use lately is umpire says. Especially if I'm waiting and not quite sure. Umpire says, or the call is. This way you don't say it incorrectly. But then to punctuate, Cubs win, Cubs win, Cubs win, Cubs win, and I think is a really good way to save that call.
It's all about anticipation in contrast to calling what you're seeing. And when there's action ongoing, and we've got a TV call, so we can see the pictures in front of us. But in this case, we've got to go wide shot because we are looking at the full entirety of the field. And the second that we go close on the tag at first, now we've got to suddenly switch to the runner breaking in from third. There's a lot that you've got to keep your eye on. And in this case, it's best not to talk. And then it's best to react after the fact, I would argue.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think those are the hardest types of plays, right? You just have so many base runners. You have so many fielders with the ball, who's throwing it. It's really easy to lose track of who's who. If at any point you look down to your scorebook to try to think about, wait, who is that? You're in deep trouble. Sometimes it's better to not use names so that you don't say them incorrectly or not try to think of the name. If you know the name for sure, then absolutely say it. Those mayhem plays are super fun, super stressful, super fun for the audience and super stressful for the announcer.
Well, stressful, especially because you know that runner at third base, or as we go through this, there will be more runners involved with a tying run and a winning run. But you know that the balance hangs with this runner. So you've always got one eye on what's that guy doing? What are we going to have? Oh, we've got a chance that the game is decided right here. And this is where we come back to that fundamental of stay short.
Yeah, stay short. All right, let's get to another wacky walk-off. This is one of my favorites from just recently.
1 for 2. Taps this one to third. And he sails it down the right field line. Ramos is on the move. And he is going to stop. No, now he's going to go to third. Here's the throw. It gets by him. Here comes Ramos. This game is over. The Giants win the game on a Little League home run. Tell me you've seen that one before.
Well, not since my oldest son was 10 years old.
Unbelievable.
I mean, it would have been a great play from Jackson. I mean, he tries to play, it goes up the line, and you see Ramos swing. He was going to stop at second base. Matt Williams was having a heart attack, waving him over to third. And then the air throw, and up the line he goes, and we all go home happy. My goodness.
Adames was stride for stride along the dugout.
And he was going to be just very happy to be at second. Then he looks over and he sees Matt Williams. Whoop. And it becomes a snowball fight. And the Giants walk off with a tremendous homestand and a wonderful 17-game stretch.
All right, here's your final. It's the Giants.
Okay, so that is the amazing duo of Dwayne Kuiper, play-by-play, Mike Kruko, the analyst there, Jesse.
How great is that slow motion shot of the Gatorade? And Matt Williams with the windmill and then turning his back to the play and walking back to the dugout. I think, and we'll get into Kuip, I think this shows the power of a really good analyst because Kruk kills this. From the note that the last time that he saw this was with his 10-year-old son. So now we've injected some levity into this and then breaking through and the description of everything that's ongoing as he's calling the replay. I think Kruk hits this right out of the ballpark.
I think everyone involved with this hits it out of the ballpark to me. This is, to me, Jesse, why I think the Giants TV broadcast is consistently the best in the country, right? You've got the analyst, you've got the play-by-play, the camera operators are so good. That first replay that we see, they call it the splash cam. They put a camera up at the very top right field, which had never been done before, and that's the camera that's used for those splash hits that go into McCovey Cove. So that's the first angle that we see. So that camera operator kills it. And then we see just the isolation of Ramos the entire way for the second view of it. And then the slow motion, the Gatorade, again, just the images from the ballpark are so beautiful. And then even Kuiper, the way he says, and the way that he draws it out as the throw gets away. Here comes Ramos. This game is over. The layout, the Little League home run, it's just a 10 across the board with everybody.
In the context of the play, it's the leadoff hitter in the bottom of the ninth. Nobody on, nobody out, tie game. You just want to get him on. And so there is a number of different places where Kuip could stop. And we just watched the Rockies-Cubs broadcast where I would argue the announcers and the broadcast paused and they stopped and they didn't stay with it even as the play is ongoing. You've got we've got a little number. And then the ball's thrown away. And Ramos is stopping at second. And so if you're just watching that, you are then halting the momentum of your call. And Kuip just stays with it the whole way, as now everyone is flying out of the dugout. It's Willie Adames rushing down the third base side. What a fun play. What an embarrassing play for the Rangers. What a fun play.
Even Kruk's description of Matt Williams, he's having a heart attack trying to send him around. And he says it's a snowball fight at the end. Like, just the words are so good that they use. Kruk doesn't step on Kuiper. Kuiper doesn't step on Kruk. This is two guys who've been best friends since the 80s when they were teammates. They understand each other's roles. They lay out for one another. It's just so fabulous, Jesse.
It's how it's all channeled too. So the words are great. And that's where I'm going. Like, I think that Kruk destroyed this. But to inject that feel of, this is comical. This is a little league home run. This is the thrill of victory. Everything is enhancing the feeling of it. This isn't something where you're going over the top because it's a grand slam in the bottom of the ninth to win the World Series. This is very much would you look at this way to win a ball game?
All right. Speaking of that, would you look at this way to win a ball game? Let's go across the bay for another unique way to end a game.
Bluff at third by Chavez. And a bunt, third base side. Miller charging, bare hand picks up, can't make a play, A's win! Ramon Hernández surprises the Red Sox. He drops down a bunt on the second pitch, and Miller can make no play. The A's have won the game.
And look at him get Raymond in the outfield and right field.
Hernández ran through first base on the right field line. The team has mobbed him in the grass in shallow right field. Holy Toledo, the element of surprise reigns supreme. And they're all standing and admiring and applauding.
Okay, so that just makes me so happy, but also so sad. The voices of the late Bill King and Ray Fosse, may they rest in peace. But again, just hearing those voices makes me so happy. The element of surprise reigns supreme, Jesse.
You and I talk about how a broadcaster can craft a call. And so much attention is paid to how we call it in the moment. This is where I would like a broadcaster to sit back and understand. It's not just the play-by-play in the moment. It's what you say afterward. And with this play is done, Josh, in 3 seconds. And the game is over in 3 seconds or less. Perfect squeeze, run scores, game's over, A's win. And then what is said after that, that's what makes this special.
The enthusiasm of Ray Fosse is very evident when he basically turns Bill King's focus from the bunt to here's the celebration out in right field, right? And then Bill picks up on that. You know, they're mobbing Hernández in right field, right? And gets into that description.
Well, hang on, because he takes us there. He talks about Hernández overrunning first base, that we're not just immediately teleported to right field. We have this understanding of why are we in right field?
Yeah. Remember, this is the radio call that we're hearing that has been put on top of the television call. This is a playoff game. And yeah, so look, Bill King had so many amazing moments, right? Between the Warriors, the Raiders, the A's, all of the dramatic finishes. And I remember, I'll never forget talking to Bill one day, and he actually said something different than what a lot of announcers say. Okay, anyone can call the game, can sound good in the ninth inning. But how good are you when it's a blowout in the sixth or seventh inning? And Bill was like, no. When the game is on the line, the most dramatic moments, you have to be at your best. You absolutely need to crush the calls when it's a dramatic win like this. And I think that's when Bill was at his best, was crushing these dramatic moments at the end.
Now, there's no letting this breathe. There's
Correct.
no A's win, pause, crowd goes nuts.
That was not King's style.
Back in.
Yeah, that was not King's style. Especially in the 80s, that was very much the style, right? Of like these super long layoffs. Bill just kept going, right? He gave you like a little brief thing, and we're going to hear a different A's announcer a little bit later who had a similar but slightly different philosophy too. But yeah, he just goes.
I loved your observation about Ray leading Bill, especially after we just listened to Kuip and Kruk, where Kuip calls it, and then Kruk takes over and leads Kuip back in. Because that very much is the, what should we be looking at? What should our focus be? What should our tone be? And this once again leads into the play-by-play person is so locked in on, you call it and you get out the facts. This happened. This scored. Here's the final score. It's over. And then the analyst gets to really look at the big pictures or the fine details. And then that takes the conversation in a direction. So this once again leads us into that wonderful camaraderie that can elevate matters.
I sometimes imagine this. This is definitely not how it happens, but I sometimes imagine this. The way that like Jesse and I are like right next to each other on the computer screen, I sometimes imagine that, say it's a really tiny TV monitor from back in the 80s, right? And the two announcers, they're like cheek to cheek, right? As they're like trying to like get in. And one person says something and then the other person says the other thing. I feel like that's the way that Kuip and Kruk are. They're just so locked in. They're like cheek to cheek. You talk, I talk, we lead each other, we stay out of each other's ways. You know, other times, like with the first one, the Cubs and Rockies, it sounds like two people that are like on opposite sides of a room. They're both yelling mayhem all over the place.
Well, now we have the cameras in the booth. I've really enjoyed the New York Knicks broadcast highlights. I'm friends with Tyler Murray and his partnership with Monica McNutt, where you can see them hugging each other, or you can see one looking all around while the other is zeroed in. Do broadcasters look at each other? What glances do they exchange? How do they know who's going to talk next, and when is it their time? Or is it something that is just implicit, where they understand that innate, my turn, your turn, my turn, your turn, and off we go? That's what makes magic.
I've started to put a camera up in my booth at home whenever we get to the ninth inning and there's a chance for a walk-off. And I do it for a number of reasons. Number one, it's pure vanity. Okay, let's start with that. Whenever I post it on social media, people tend to like the behind the scenes inside the booth. I also do it because I want to see what the visiting announcer's reaction is in the background. Right. But I also want to be able to critique myself. I want to know, where are my eyes going? And most of the people who see the clips, they're just listening to the voice. And I position it so you can see the monitor. I want to know, how often am I looking down? I want to know how often, like, are my eyes going like this? Are they like this? Am I looking at the monitor? I use it as a way of like critiquing myself of, what are the veins like in my neck, right? Like, what are the veins like in my face? And how can I think about that, analyze that to make sure that I'm not up here, that I'm more up here with what my voice is and what my enthusiasm level is. Because, Jesse, a walk-off win in April is different than a walk-off win in September, and that's different than a walk-off win in the postseason.
Yes, especially because you've got the meaning and the significance of the game, but the atmosphere of the crowd and how much you need to surf on top of them, shout over them, be with them, use them. There was a broadcaster in the Midwest League years ago, over a decade ago, who would throw pencils at the ceiling. And I'd know that this was a big win if I'd look over and there were 2 pencils or 3 pencils flying.
By mentioning the Midwest League, let's get into what we do, Jesse, because there's times that there's a walk-off win and there's 50 people in the stands, right?
Or less.
Or less. There's times when there's 5,000 people in the stands. Maybe in Albuquerque we got 12 to 15,000 for a big dramatic mariachis game, fireworks, Little League night. But so look, it's really easy when there's 50,000 roaring fans in the Oakland Coliseum for Bill King to capture the mood. But there's other times when you and I have this, like last night, the walk-off that I had in Oklahoma City, there was maybe 1,000 people in the stands. They were making a lot of noise, but it's, I think the word would be awkward. How excited are you getting when there's very few people in the stands who are there getting excited as well?
well, then it becomes about the player's enthusiasm. And that's where I come back to that word channel. It's about are you channeling and what matters. And so I look down and I see this player's face. It's Kruk looking at Willie Adames. It's the look at all of those A's who are now swarming Ramon Hernández down the right side and going, this is where I'm going to draw energy from. Or if you've got the stands, you've got them. But even if it's just the players, you understand what it means to the players, what it means to the person who delivered it, and what it means to everybody else, the guy who's grabbing the Gatorade cooler, everything else. It's what does it mean in that moment, and how can you bring that through the airwaves?
Those are some of my favorite shots on the replays is just, professional baseball players really have this thing, don't get too high, don't get too low. You got to stay even keel every day, long season, blah, blah, blah. And when they just turn into kids that are just jumping up and down where they are is just ecstatic and in disbelief as anybody else watching the game and excited for their teammate or disconsolate for what just happened to their own team. And all of that just becomes like, okay, this is where we really get to see their humanity, their emotions.
There's fight or flight. There's also, in a walk-off, there's who's the Gatorade cooler guy? Who's the guy who's the first one out there? Who's the guy who needs to tear off the hero's jersey? Who, whatever it is, whatever gets into his mind, he needs to tear that jersey off. Everybody has a role.
I wonder if they game plan in the clubhouse for for these roles. All right, let's head out east for a couple of very memorable walk-offs for different reasons.
And the 3-1 popped up. Castillo dropped the ball. He dropped the ball. Here comes Teixeira, and the Yankees win. Oh my goodness! He dropped the ball.
All right, I'm going to pause it right here. I should have paused it a second before so we can see Frankie Rodriguez with his hands up in the air. I think Michael Kay is fabulous in this call. I'm going to rewind it a little bit better, and you give me your thoughts on this call here, Jesse.
He's right on Castillo, right? He says Castillo's name, but he's letting himself react to whatever happens with Castillo. And then drops the ball, and immediately he looks at the runner and identifies him. Here comes Teixeira. So the efficiency of the words, the way that the voice jumps to reflect this, we go from the game is going to end in a Mets win to he has such a great reaction to calling a Yankees win.
I think that when there's a pop-up like this, it's really easy to say something like, this should do it, or, to too quickly say the game's over. I actually do like the phrase, this should do it. Yes. I like the word should, right? I like the word should a lot. But again, it's very easy to let your voice change to going into post-game mode. It's over. And because this is Yankees and Mets, and it's so loud, and there's so much just passion that's going on, I think that Michael Kay does an outstanding job of saying, he dropped the ball, oh my, without crushing Castillo, but also displaying, oh my goodness, this is an error. I'm gonna play it again here.
Drop the ball! He dropped the ball! Here comes Teixeira, and the Yankees win! Oh my goodness! He dropped the ball!
Oh my goodness, he dropped the ball.
The Yankees win 9-8 in the most improbable fashion.
Just using the word improbable, right? There's no direct blame here. This is something that is unexpected. He just dropped the ball and 2 runs score. What an ending.
I want to get into how your voice gets low when the moments get high, but I want to save that thought to get to this next clip that follows right after this.
Who are you, Dave Feldman?
Here comes Grissom, and safe at the plate. Indians win. Vizquel missed it. Davey Johnson arguing that the ball was fouled off by Vizquel. Davey's saying you got to get some help, that it was a foul ball. It looked like it was a foul ball to me. Home plate umpire John Hirschbeck saying that Grissom is safe at home. This looked like a foul ball. Here comes Grissom. Squeeze was on. Did he foul it? Webster dropped it. Grissom touches home. The game's over.
Oh, that was heartbreaking for all my folks back home. Lenny Webster's the catcher. Baltimore, Cleveland. This was a hotly contested series. And there was just this feeling of a break either way and things are going to change, right? Marquise Grissom going deep against Armando Benitez. So we've got a squeeze. And what a terribly difficult play to call as a broadcaster when you see the batter square, you see the ball go through the catcher, and you see the runner streaking across as the Orioles basically are not reacting. So you need the instant replay, Josh, in order to understand what has happened and was this properly called.
I think this is peak Joe Buck, minimal words, and then Tim McCarver shining, because Tim, for whatever you think of Tim, he was not afraid to tell you, I thought it was a foul ball before we see the replay. I think it's really easy for an analyst to just sit back and say, well, let's see, let's wait. And maybe even journalistically, that's better. But the one thing that I always admired about Tim McCarver is that he was not afraid to say what he thought immediately, even if the replay would make him look incorrect, which is what I think the case is in this clip, and which is why I wanted to use it. It's a hard call. Like you said, it's what, a second, 2 seconds? And then from there, it's just the analyst, it's Tim McCarver being Tim McCarver time now. And let's look at it from these different angles. Umpire, Davey Johnson, fans, Orioles, Indians, right? It's just a lot of things that are happening. And in a lot of ways, it's almost an impossible call for a play-by-play announcer because even the umpire just points. Right?
It's so funny because you and I, we start this and I'm going, I wonder what we're going to learn here about the best way for a play-by-play broadcaster to call a walk-off. And what I'm seeing is, boy, do you have to lean on your analyst. And you and I, when you don't have an analyst in the minors, when it's you, or if you're just Vin Scully working solitary, so you really do have to do all the heavy lifting. And it just takes more than one pair of eyes sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, speaking of Vin, let's get to a moment of Vin calling some mayhem.
Yeah.
0-1. Ground ball right by the diving Espinosa, stopping at second, and the ball goes through Taylor's legs. Here comes Kendrick to tie. Puig is on his way. The relay is double clutch. Can you believe it? The Dodgers win it 4-3. Michael Taylor, who struck out 5 times tonight, has the error that kills Washington.
That's a tough day at the old ballpark.
Oh, Michael Taylor, I feel so bad for you. 5 strikeouts and that error. Oh, my goodness.
He's a defensive replacement, too. Like, one of his chief qualities was his defense.
What do you think of Vin? This is very end of Vin's career. You can hear it in his voice, right? He definitely doesn't have, he never had the big booming voice, but you can hear how, it's much slower there near the end. But what do you think?
I mean, what makes this a good call from Vin is the connection, right? We can judge all of the other calls on what is the person doing with their voice. How do they, Michael K., that voice changing and reacting in the moment. And Vin doesn't do that here. But what he does is he just destroys Michael A. Taylor, because that's the story of the game. Michael A. Taylor struck out 5 times, and he does not hold back, right? Kills the Nationals.
Again, you think about what you're mentally preparing for. There's a ground ball. The shortstop is diving for a ball. Mentally, you are not thinking the game is about to end, right? You're thinking about if he's diving, then one of 2 things is going to probably happen. Either he's going to field it, it's a double play, or it's a base hit, there's runners at first and third. Nope, not this time, Jesse. Michael Taylor, the shortstop doesn't get it. Michael Taylor overruns it. Puig kind of ran through a stop sign, not completely. Puig just constantly ran. So you never know with Puig. But yeah, here's another. It's a ground ball to the shortstop, and the game ends on it.
Yasiel Puig was the sort of shooting star that people who were not around for his career, you're gonna want to check out the very high moments, like all the moments, because it was must watch whatever was going on. This is a great example of be ready for something to suddenly happen. And it's, if there's that opportunity that the winning run is able to score, here we've got this play and, oh, we have taken a turn and now suddenly the game is going to be decided. So you can't be surprised by it. One of my very first jobs in baseball, one of the chief pieces of advice I was given was the ball players can be surprised. The fans can be surprised. But you as the broadcaster, if you get surprised, it goes wrong. So do whatever you can to not be surprised.
The thing about that last play with Scully on the call, and we're going to hear a few more later, is the thing about like what you're describing where your eyes go to. You're thinking about the ball, you're thinking about the base runners, you're thinking about the outfielders fielding it. But the number of times in which a relay throw is offline or the middle infielder drops it because he's trying to be so fast. And I think that's the hardest thing to keep your eye on and to describe, Jesse, because again, in your brain, you're thinking, where's the ball? Where's the base runner? But it's those exchanges on relay throws that often get dropped that often lead to that last run scoring.
I have had this before where the ball is hit into the outfield, and so I watch where the ball gets down, and then I pick up the lead runner. And then when I look back, suddenly the outfielder is chasing the ball, and I did not see the miss. I did not see the misplay. So just as you're saying, when something happens when you are looking elsewhere, you're watching the runner, oh, something went wrong with the relay, and then the adjustment that you have to make to that.
Yeah, I think I find myself using the phrase, it gets by him, as opposed to he overran it or he missed it or he bobbled it. It's just simply it gets by him or it got by him. Something along those lines, just in case, maybe your eyes were picking up the runner at third as it went under the glove or he bobbled it or maybe it skips up and takes a bad hop and you didn't see that. It's really hard to try to figure out exactly, because your eyes are constantly doing this, right?
I come back to Vin because the phrase that I go to is from 1986. Vin's behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. So now I will invariably use the it gets through.
All right. I teased it here. You said David Feldman. When the action gets high, your voice gets low. Sounds like a great thing to say, but how do you actually literally do this? I think that the master of the walk-off call is Ken Korach of the A's, and we're going to hear a whole bunch of his here in a row. And this is what David Feldman has told both you and me. David Feldman, I think, is a super smart analyst of broadcasters. He does a lot of different work in the Bay Area. We had him on crafting the call when we said goodbye to the Coliseum. And so let's just behold listening to Ken Korach's walk-off calls.
Right now they trail 5-4. Randy Velarde at second, Ray Durham at first, one out in the bottom of the ninth. And Guardado deals. And it's a drive to left field deep. Jones going back, looking up. It is gone! It's gone! Tejada wins it! Do you believe it? 18 wins in a row! And Braden turns, he throws, and it's swung on a ground ball to short. Taken there, Pennington's got it. He throws a perfect game! Dallas Braden has thrown a perfect game! The A's have beaten Tampa Bay 4-0. The kid from Stockton has done it for the A's. 2 out, ninth inning, 12-5 A's, no balls and 2 strikes. And the pitch to Michael Young is swung on a fly ball center field. That's going to do it. Coco is under it, drifting back. He's there, and he's got it. And the A's have won the West. And they've done it after trailing by 5 games with 9 to play. And they're going nuts. And their fans have loved every second of it.
But he has done a good job handling different pitches.
Smith leads the second in a tie ball game. Valverde deals. And Coco, it's a base hit to right field. Smith to third, up the ball. Bobbled and right by Garcia, and the A's have won it. Seth Smith scores from second. A base hit to right field by Coco Crisp. Garcia charging from right, but he bobbled the ball, and once he bobbled it, it was a moot point. The A's are going crazy, back behind the bag at first, jumping up and down, and the A's have forced a 5th game with a 3-run bottom of the 9th inning, and they beat the Tigers by the final of 4-3.
Runners at first and third. Center field, Jackson 2 steps toward left center. Nathan at the belt. He is ready to turn. It's on the way. Swung on, drilled to left, down the left field line it goes, and it is gone. Josh Donaldson, a towering drive inside the foul pole down the left field line on the first pitch he sees from Joe Nathan in the bottom of the 9th inning. It's a walk-off for the A's against the Tigers, and the final is 3-1.
And it's swung on, line to left, base hit, and the A's have won it. Cespedes scores from third, a line drive, base hit to left by Stephen Vogt, and the A's have evened the series.
And throws, and Lucroy hits it
To right center, base hit, and the A's have won it. Around third to score is Chapman. The ball goes all the way to the wall, and Jonathan Lucroy has brought the A's home winners tonight before the largest crowd in Coliseum history. Yeah.
All right, so that is Ken Korach's greatest hits, basically. And I need to ask Ken this, because whenever I first heard, when the moment gets big, you get low. And I thought, okay, so how do you do that? And what I've literally done sometimes, Jesse, is maybe you say, instead of saying, it is gone with your throat going up, it is gone. Just to see like the difference. I practiced this, especially early in the season when I'm trying to get my mixing levels right with my microphone, of just what is the difference in my throat or in my voice when I point down as opposed to up, and how it sounds. And I don't know if Korach does it. I just know that it just feels like it's coming from his stomach, whereas for most of us, it's really easy for it to come from up here and in our neck.
Yeah, he's tapping into something there. And that beautiful voice, it's no longer as honeyed. It becomes that Jack Buck style, right? So the honest, emotional excitement is coming right through there.
Yeah, I seriously need to talk to Ken about where is his microphone? What type of mic does he use? Does he put it further away in the big moments? I think a lot of it is just the audio that's engineering, the mix that's done that's so well. The Coliseum crowd always sounds so awesome in those moments. But Korach, very similar to Bill King in that he's not going to have the super long layoff to let it breathe, right? He's going to let it breathe a little bit, a tiny bit here. But once he calls it, he's going to give you those extra details. He's going to tell you the largest crowd in Coliseum history. He's going to tell you that they scored 3 runs in the 9th inning to force game 5, right? He's going to, there's a journalistic type of style that's involved there in which he's filling in all of these gaps. Remember, it's on radio. We're watching it, but this is on radio. And I just think that Korach is just so darn good in these moments, Jesse.
Well, he is a stick microphone guy. So he's got the microphone down. And so because of that, and he's someone who prioritizes the sound of the game, the sound of his voice, and how does he manipulate it? Where is he in relation to the microphone? And he will manipulate the stick microphone. So it very much is, as he's calling the game, and especially in this huge moment, he has the ability to change his proximity just as he's changing his voice and as he's sounding. But all the while, I want to go back to the home run for 18 consecutive wins.
Yes, please.
Because there's some Niehaus in there in terms of how he explodes in euphoria.
So some of the background about that, Bill King was the number one. Korach was the number two. And King was taking games off. And there was some chatter about, do we need to bring Bill King back from vacation to be on the call, for this dramatic winning streak that the A's have had here? And Bill was like, nope, I'm taking my days off. Korach gets the ninth inning. And so you had a whole bunch of walk-offs all in a row. Tejada had another one for 19. Bill King came back for 20, this famous Scott Hatterberg call. And that was very much Bill King's principle, too. No, I'm not coming off vacation. These are the games for Korach. And I can tell you that as someone who grew up in the Bay Area and loved Bill King, and everyone immediately realized how good Korach was. But those were the games when it was, okay, Korach is the elite type of announcer that we have come to expect here in the Bay Area. I think that him getting those moments, those wins, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, him on the call in the ninth inning, that was his first time of really like all in a row, this enormous momentum that's going on with the A's. And he nailed it. His voice was perfect in those moments.
Can I point out a potential negative?
Of course, that's what we do here.
Okay. Do you remember when Kenny talks about the bobble in right field?
Mm-hmm.
The first word that would come to mind for me is overrun. Right? The right fielder is charging in. The ball hits him in the glove. Might have been Kareem Garcia. Hits him in the glove. He just keeps on going, and the ball doesn't stick in the glove and gets behind him. So I'm not sure that was a bobble.
Yeah.
But this gets right back into you're watching the runner. And so my assumption is he sees the ball gets hit. He's now picked up the runner. He now has heard something has gone wrong. So the word that Ken went to was bobble, as now we've got that runner scoring. And I find that very relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Like what I was just saying with the drop of the relay throw. Those are the hardest ones to pick up. You just have like this. It would be it's just your mouth memory. Your mouth memory is the right fielder charges. Here's the throw. Oh no, he didn't catch it. There is no throw, right? And trying to come up with those words. And I think that might be the hardest part of trying to be in those moments is what happens when the right fielder overruns it, bobbles it, kicks it, whatever, slips, bad hop. There's some obstacle. And yeah, it's hard to immediately recognize that and get those words out of your mouth.
Yeah. Or just to understand what happened where when we were going back to here's the play-by-play person's minimal call. And here's the analyst saying, let's talk about this further. That's a perfect one for balls misplayed in right field, game-winning run scores. And now the analysts can go, he overran it. He was too overeager. He came in. The ball went into his glove. He ran right past. You just need multiple pairs of eyes because on the baseball field, this is what bugs me about baseball video games. There's too much to see. So baseball video games just can't capture it. Basketball video game, you can capture the whole court. You don't have to worry about that. Baseball video games, no chance. I think home run derbies translate terribly to TV because we've got to watch the batter, but we've got to watch where the ball is going. And for us as a broadcaster, you can't see it. You can't see this and this. You're trying to widen your lens. And it goes right back to the Rockies Cubs mayhem that opened up this whole show is you're trying to watch every runner at the same time. And now the ball's over here. Now the ball's over there. And what's this runner going to do? So what in the world do you do as broadcaster just to try to make it up? And it comes back into using that catch-all phrase, whatever it might be, and calling it in the moment, and then afterward going, the game is now over. The winning run has scored. And let's talk about what we just experienced.
All right. Well, speaking of that, let's get into more mayhem. You sent me a clip that I've not seen yet. So I look forward to watching this next clip from minor league baseball for more mayhem.
Okay. So Josh, we're in the Midwest League. The Burlington Bees, who no longer are in the MWL starting in 2020, they have the lead. However, this was a larger lead for Burlington, but Wisconsin has trimmed away, and the Timber.
Yeah, so we had 2-run game.
Yes.
0-2 count, 2 outs. So Burlington is 1 strike from victory here.
Yes. So get that last strike.
Get that last strike.
Chris Merring on the call.
Took the first one for a strike. Chased the next one, and now the 0-2 pitch is a swing and a miss, strike 3. The ball pops away. They got to throw down to first, and it's going to be past the first baseman. 2 runs are in the tie. Here comes Garcia with the winning run. The throw is late. The Rattlers win. The Rattlers win. The Rattlers win. I have never seen anything like that in my life. A walk-off, drop third strike that scores 3 runs to cap off a 5-run bottom of the 9th inning to give the Rattlers a 7-6 win and a 3-game sweep of the Burlington Bees. That is amazing. And Gabby Garcia coming all the way around from first to win it for the Rattlers. My goodness. Have you ever seen anything like it, folks? Pierre chased that pitch inside. It got away, but the throw down to first got away from Menendez. The 2 runs tied, and Hanley Stacia was sending Gabby all the way, and Gabby gets in with a headfirst slide to win it. My goodness. Rattlers 7-6 in 9 innings. This is Timber Rattlers baseball on WNAM.
Shout out to the announcer. What's his name again?
Chris Merring.
Chris. I think he nails this call. You know, we had a 3-run walk with the Isotopes earlier this year.
This reminded me of.
Yeah, this is a 3-run walk-off strikeout wild pitch. Mayhem. You think about all the decisions that players on the field have to make, right? And the catcher has to make this quick decision. He throws to first. By the way, the right fielder's throw was fabulous. They almost got him at home. Yes. But I think he does a really good job of saying that the game is now tied, and now here comes the potential winning run. And I think it's funny, like we talk about this, Jesse, how much we self-critique ourselves. And when I'm just listening to this for the first time, I'm just thinking, what's the most important thing? He told me that the game is tied and that there's a chance to win it. And then I think that his enthusiasm level matches what's happening. And I think his audio levels are mixed properly. They're not perfect. There's very few minor league audio levels that are mixed because we don't have the – anyways, that's another topic. I think that overall Chris just does a really good job on Mayhem here.
The helmet throw, that's one of the farthest I've ever seen a helmet go up into the air. The hug down to the field by the players. I think that he was beside himself, Chris, in the broadcast booth, going, what was this? And so him and just trying to pick his brain back together. Have you ever seen anything like that? There's just that feeling of utter joy with the incredulity that it's strike 3 and we won.
He's even like laughing at one point about the absurdity just causes him to laugh on the air, which I think is just a real authentic, genuine reaction too.
Yes. It gets back to the Giants call. It's like, Do you believe that we just won the game like that?
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this episode by a couple of moments that I've had with the Isotopes. We're going to go back to 2017, and we're going to look at 2 different plays that happened in a 3-night stretch.
3 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Runners go. The pitch is a little dribbler up the first base line. Morrow Fields tosses to first, wide, away from Van Slyke. Here comes Garneau. Here comes Enoa. He scores. Topes win. Topes win. The celebration is on. The Topes have come back from an 8-2 deficit and they win it on a throwing error by the pitcher. 9-8 is the final.
Well, let's show you what happened 2 nights later. Same 2 teams, same ballpark. It gets even better, Jesse.
It's 4 for 6. 320 a little over a week ago. Ferguson takes a safe lead at first base. Here's the 1-0. Hit high and deep to center. Thompson going up the hill, at the top of the hill. He has it go off his glove for a home run. It is gone. Topes win. Topes win. 6-4 is the final. It went off Thompson's glove. He can't believe it. He's still at the top of the hill, and the celebration is on. It was in his glove and then out of his glove. Oh, what a way to end it. The Isotopes, with their second final at-bat victory of this series, they have taken 3 out of 4 from the Dodgers.
That is Trace Thompson in straightaway center field. Yes, once upon a time there was a hill at Isotopes Park. It got taken out a couple of years ago. At the top of the hill, yes, it went off. We didn't have a very good replay for some reason in that clip, even though I know that it exists. So, again, 2 games, 3 days, Oklahoma City just gift wrapping for the Isotopes. A throwing error by the pitcher and then a ball off the glove of the center fielder at the top of the hill, Jesse.
Okay, let's talk about your broadcasting. Both of these have something in common, and that is something is going to happen, and then something different happens. We've got the pitcher throwing to first base, and then the pitcher throws it away. We've got he's at the top of the hill. Oh, it's in his glove. Oh, now it's over the fence. My favorite detail that you added in is that Trace Thompson is still at the top of the hill. Like that, to my mind, that's weighty. And instead of the full focus on it's our second walk-off win, and here's the final score, and here's the victory, and this is wild. That widening of the lens to talk about how that center fielder is just still up there because he had it, and then he didn't, and it's over. I think that's significance in a very astute observation, a tiny little thing that you put in there that elevates it.
Yeah, what I remember about that is that normally we watch the celebration, and I just kept thinking about Trace Thompson in center field. He actually stayed at the top of the hill for probably another 15, 20 seconds or so, just in complete disbelief of what happened. The longer call, which we did not hear, I also remember, so the relief pitchers for the visiting team in Albuquerque are in left center, and they could not see what happened. And so they go down the steps, they're walking toward the first base dugout, and we showed the replay on the video board at Isotopes Park, and they all stopped, turned around to watch, and then you can see like their reactions, like this. And then they ended up walking with Trace Thompson, to the dugout at first base. And that becomes where you're balanced as an announcer, Jesse. You've got the euphoria of your team winning, the excitement, and then I still go back to the compassion for Trace Thompson, who nearly robbed a home run to save the game or send the game into yet another extra innings. It was tied at the time. And then how it is so hard to play center field in Albuquerque, even now when it's flat, right? The outfield is so big. The altitude is 5,200 feet. And then you think about going from grass to dirt to grass, uphill. He's at the top of this hill, and it goes off his glove for a home run to end it.
I think that's a good way for this show to conclude, because it gets back to the original intent of Dennis Eckersley coining walk-off. Walk-off is not the celebration. Walk-off is not everybody jumping around and tumbling together in a hug down to the grass or flinging a helmet as high as you can into the air. Walk-off is the defense and how they leave. And originally it's the pitcher. But in this case, it's Trace Thompson. And it's all of those guys who are like, no, we're going to walk off with him.
When it comes to like final lessons for this, I go back to a couple of things. Number one, constantly saying Tyne runs at second, Winnie runs at first. Let the audience know, remind yourself, and thinking about what's most important. Game is tied, game is over, or here comes the winning run, something like that. Waiting for the umpire to make the ruling. Even on that home run, I remember thinking, it is so far away from the broadcast booth, it is hard to see exactly what happened. I almost feel like I got lucky that I happened to see it correctly. I can't remember if I was looking at the monitor. Our high home camera operator, Travis, is awesome, and he usually follows the ball really well. That's a hard ball for him to follow as well. In both of those calls, I think I used the phrase, the celebration is on, and I remember self-critiquing myself saying, you need to come up with a different phrase. You can't just always say the celebration is on. So thinking of things like that. But yeah, looking for those different details. Who is most excited? Who is most in disbelief about this moment? If it's the playoffs, then the focus is there will be a game 5, like Ken Korach told us. If it's a game in May of 2017, like those last two, then it's more about, we just witnessed something unbelievable. The Isotopes have taken 3 out of 4. When it's a Yankees-Mets, it's he dropped the ball. He dropped the ball, oh my goodness, to match like what this means in terms of the season.
I mean, Michael Kay said improbable, which makes me think of Joe Davis when the Dodgers lost to the Padres on a triple play, saying impossible.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Or Chris Merring just laughing in the booth because what else can you do?
Mm-hmm. Put a camera on yourself in the booth. I think it's really helpful. I think that you can learn a lot about where your eyes go, the veins in your neck, and just how you go about. One thing that I do that I don't realize, I spin my pen a lot. I learned it in debate when I was in college, and I'm blown away at how often I'm spinning my pen as I'm describing it, and I don't even realize that I'm doing it. It's like a nervous tick or something. And so I like self-critiquing myself by putting the camera on at some place that you can learn exactly what are your eyes doing so you can get better.
Especially if you forget about the camera, right? You need to be unaware of it and focused on what's going on there.
Yeah. There was one time, so the DJ in Albuquerque sits just to my left. There's a window, but sits just to my left. So we look at each other all the time. And I remember once there was a walk-off, and he put his hand up to do a high five. And so I just went, bam, and slammed my hand against the window. We did a high five through the window, and you can totally hear on the call. And I happen to have the camera on that time, so it's like, yes, that's me high-fiving through the window with the DJ after this walk-off.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, walk us up, Jesse.
It appears we've thrown the ball out of play a little bit too soon because we're crashing back into the end of this episode with one of the wildest walk-offs that we or anyone in baseball has ever seen. So let's bring on the man who watched it firsthand. Josh, get back in here.
My goodness, Jesse. Yeah, still cannot comprehend what I witnessed.
So this is, as you have coined it,
the Reno Crash-Off. Because we were in Reno, it was a walk-off, but there involved a crash.
This gets into my larger point of sometimes you need a couple of pairs of eyes in the broadcast booth because there was too much going on for one person to process.
Okay, so I'll set the stage, and then we will look through this moment again, and I'll walk you through what I saw and what I didn't see, and then what I learned once I went off the air. So it's the bottom of the 9th inning. The Albuquerque Isotopes, that's the team that I'm broadcasting for, has a 1-run lead. The Reno Aces, that's the Diamondbacks affiliate, have loaded up the bases, and there is 1 out. So this is very critical here because you've got the tying run at third base, the winning run is at second base, and the runner at first base, that runner doesn't matter, right? Because you just got the tying run and the winning run. So that runner at first base doesn't matter. And there's 1 out. And then this crazy thing happened.
The 3-2 payoff. Line drive. Base hit right center field. That one's going all the way to the gap. That
outscores Garcia. Pache ran into a teammate. Pache ran into a teammate around third base. Is that obstruction? Is that obstruction? He ran into a teammate who was out on the field to celebrate. And the ruling is out. He is out because he ran into a teammate. The game is not over. But now trying to score from third is the runner from first, Weber. But it should be a dead ball. Or is it? No. They say it's not a dead ball. And now 2 runs have scored. And now the ball game is over. I do not believe what I have just witnessed. Pedro Lopez getting the ruling from the umpiring crew. Apparently is not a dead ball when you run into your teammate. And so Andy Weber, who had stopped at third, sprinted home. The Aces are celebrating behind second base. Again, Garcia scored. Alexander ran into his teammate who had come off the dugout at third base. So he was out on obstruction, but apparently it's not a dead ball. And so Weber, who had gone first to third, then scores. The umpires are walking off the field. It is a victory for Reno. The final score is 5-4, and I cannot comprehend what I just witnessed. Oh my goodness.
Not only you, I love seeing the Reno victorious players out there in the outfield with the arms outstretched because they didn't know what happened either.
This is what I also did not know at the time, which I learned after the game ended. So I finish my broadcast. I have about a 15-20 minute post-game show. And then I walk out to the umpire's room, which is in center field at Greater Nevada Field, knock on the door, and they're like, yeah, come on in. We were just talking about the play. It's like, I want to know if I described this correctly or incorrectly. What I did not see, because I was looking at the chaos on the infield, and what the camera does not show, is that Isotope center fielder Sam Heliot threw the ball into the stands thinking the game was over. So, number one, what I learned is that when there is a collision amongst teammates, it is definitely not a dead ball. There is still a live ball. The runner who had started at first had already advanced past second base. And if you throw the ball into the stands, it is a 2-base advancement. I'll never forget when Larry Walker accidentally handed the ball to a fan at Dodger Stadium thinking it was the final out of the inning. Then he ran back to try and grab it and throw it back, right? So it is a 2-base advancement. Sam Heliot had no idea what had happened. I mean, how would you? It's a ball in the gap. You think the game is over. He's trying to be a nice guy and throw the baseball to a kid. And so that is actually why the game ended, because he threw the ball into the stands.
Could we go back a bit?
Mm-hmm.
Josh, why was there a collision around third?
This is only a life in 2025 moment. Ildemaro Vargas, who recently got called up to the majors again by the Diamondbacks, was in the dugout. And from what I was told, he asked a representative of the Reno Aces front office, who was down there with a GoPro camera getting ready to run on the field to get footage for social media and the highlight, if he could grab the camera and run out there himself. While that member of the Reno Aces front office was trying to determine if this was a good idea or not, Connor Kaiser had the hit. Vargas just grabbed the GoPro camera and started running out onto the field. So the reason why he crashes into his teammate is because his back is to the field. He's filming himself like this as he's running from the third base dugout out onto the field, oblivious to what's going on. And the runner who is at second, Christian Pache, could not get out of his way, and they collided.
You know, I think I recall reading in a Tim Haggerty book that the same thing happened in the 1920s.
So here's a couple of other things that I learned too. So I use the word obstruction, and that's actually incorrect. The technical term for that is coach's assistance. And so the best way to describe that is, let's say the runner is trying to score from second, he rounds third, and then the coach stops him so that he doesn't keep running, or maybe he slips and he falls and the coach helps him back up so that he can then score. That is what's known as coach's assistant, which is not allowed. I don't think there's anything in the rule book about a teammate running from the dugout holding a camera that is going to crash into you, but it basically becomes the same thing. I think it's called an unauthorized player on the field, right? Because he's not part of the action. Unauthorized player on the field, which means that base runner's out. So if that had been the third out of the inning, then it's over and we go to extra innings. But because that was only the second out of the inning, the ball is still live at that point, even though there was this unauthorized player from the dugout. And so at that point, I guess in theory, the Isotopes could say time, put your hands up, hey, call time. But if you don't have the baseball, you can't call time because, again, the baseball was thrown into the stands.
It's videographer's interference. I read from someone that they had a look at the video and they said the video is just tremendous.
It is amazing. I've seen it myself, and it boggles the mind. Yes. When you see a player holding a camera running backwards and then crash into a teammate who was trying to score the winning run, it boggles the mind that this is happening. And then just the timing of the collision is preposterous.
All right. So let's talk about your call of it, because I think that you've got some challenges in the way. You've got one challenge, which is know the rule. Recognize what has happened. We've got a collision. What happened? Who collided with whom? And then you see the umpire call out. Now, you don't know what has happened in center field. You don't know that the ball has been put out of play. So for you, I assume you pick up the umpires.
Yeah, exactly. So the one thing that I do like about my call is that once the ball is in the right center field gap, it's really easy to just say, and that's going to end the ball game, Reno wins. But I waited. And honestly, it's because we had already recorded the first part of this episode. And so the lessons learned from that was wait, and because you never know what's going to happen. And so in my description, I say, I think it's Aramis Garcia scores the tying run. And then my eyes go to Christian Pache. And so I was watching the whole way as he crashed into a teammate, which is why I was like on it immediately. And then I start to think about, okay, what's the ruling for that? And you're right. My eyes then go to the umpire. I mean, there's chaos everywhere and my eyes are, like this, but I'm mostly looking at the umpires. What are they doing? And as soon as I see the umpire do this, I realize he's out. And then the Isotope employee in me starts to yell, the game is not over, right? Not realizing the other, but then wait, here comes somebody else. And I'm like, no, that can't count. Yes, that did.
Bacon in Animal House. Yeah. Right. I called a Merkel boner with Lansing. We had bases loaded, tie game, 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, clean base hit up the middle, runner from third scores, runner for first celebrates, and does not run to second base. And it was exactly Fred Merkel. And so ever since then, and now whenever I hear other broadcasters calling walk-offs, I look for the person to say, this player scores, right? Here's the score to really clinch the game is over, it's final, and here's when it became final.
One of my favorite memories of the Kirk Gibson home run is actually like everyone's going nuts, and Steve Sachs is pushing everybody back to make sure that Gibson touches home because Sachs knows, okay, he needs to touch home. That's the winning run. And it's actually one of my favorite things that shows the baseball IQ of Steve Sachs, that in that moment, he's like, don't celebrate, stay back, give him a path so that he can touch home. Now we can celebrate.
That's the Chris Chambliss, right? When he hits the walk-off and home plate is stolen and he's just trying to figure out where should he step.
Yeah. Just totally wacky, and it once again goes to show that you just never know what's going to happen in baseball. And I think that, from a broadcasting standpoint, I'm really glad that we recorded the first half of this episode before this, because it really did just make me lock in on, no, truly don't say that a game is over until it's over, right? I think that you taught me about the announcer who doesn't like to say home run until it literally hits over the wall, a fan, a glove, something, right? Just because you never know what's going to happen. And so it's really easy to get caught up in the moment and want to say it immediately. It's okay that you don't say it for another 3 seconds. It actually adds to the drama. It adds to the excitement of it, of you wait until that exact moment that the game is truly over.
One of my favorite things that you shared was that you went to check in with the umpires, because Ideally, you, me, every broadcaster, every umpire, every coach, every player should know all of the rules. And the rules are intricate and esoteric, and in some cases trivial. And there's so much different minutia that you might go, I'll never see this. And then the next day comes and you see it. Yesterday, I saw for the first time in my life, a ball one hopped off the wall, came back on a play, and the center fielder purposefully batted the ball like a volleyball spike out of play and got caught.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, okay, what's the rule for this? So for you, you go, there's a collision, umpire called out. Here's how you called it in the moment. Then you went to check in with them. And I guarantee you, not only for you, will you be ready the next time that this happens, whenever, wherever, but now I'm better for it. Or anyone watching you on the call, now they understand, okay, here's this for 10, 15 years down the road. This is going to happen again. And I'm going to say, oh, you know, Reno Albuquerque.
There was a Reno Crash-Off once upon a time. Yeah, the other thing about umpires, too, is that you have to realize that umpires love this stuff, right? They love, I mean, they have a passion for what they do. They want to get it right. And so I wasn't nervous at all about going out there to knock on the door. I figured they'd want to talk about it with somebody. They want to make sure that they got it right. They were discussing it. And one of the umpires said at one point, my head's on a swivel going, okay, this guy, that guy, they're going through the Rolodex of what they've learned, what they've taught themselves, what they've learned by going through the rule book of exactly what it is. And even the credit to, I think it was the first base umpire who was the one who saw the Isotopes outfielder throw the ball into the stands, then immediately knowing that rule, because it's really easy for an umpire to get caught up in the moment too. The other thing I'll say for this crew is it's really easy for them to like get together for, 2, 3, 4 minutes, discuss it, have everybody yell, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, we saw it. We know the rule. This is what happened. And they started to walk off the field. The Isotopes manager came over. They explained. He was like, okay. They're walking out to center field. The two Isotopes outfielders are like, hey, what happened? And he explains, well, when you threw the ball over the fence, it's a 2-base advancement. And, talking to the guys on our team after the game, the next day and the days that have followed, very few of us knew the rule. Very few of us saw what Sam did. We didn't even know. There was people who were like, well, wait a minute. The guy who hit the ball, at one point we see him near the pitcher's mound. Does that mean that that he had abandoned the base? Or does that mean that he had gone past the runner who had started at first? And you probably have to look at it from a whole lot of different angles, but it's kind of a flimsy argument, right? The runner at first base had clearly passed second. Once the ball gets tossed into the stands, it's the base he's going to in the next. The umpires nailed the call perfect.
I do wonder if this is going to affect Sam or any outfielders, or if there are going to be any coaches who go, hey, guys, emphasis. Before you put the ball out of play, before you give it to a fan, you better be sure.
Yeah, I've actually wondered from a player development standpoint how often teams, whether it's the Rockies or the A's or anybody else, especially with, when they go to instructional league, when they begin rookie ball and spring training, if they just put up some of these wacky plays on a big old conference room to remind people, hey, this is the rule. Like, don't do this. First of all, don't grab a GoPro camera and go running out of the dugout, right? But also we had the crazy play where 3 runs scored on a walk, and that was because we had a super smart runner at second base who realized that the pitcher put his head down and stopped paying attention after balls. And so when there was ball 4, he was sprinting to third because there was 2 outs. There was a 3-2 count. He was immediately looking, recognized what the pitcher was doing. He scored. Another run ended up scoring in the chaos that followed that. So I actually do think there's a ton of teachable moments, whether it's college baseball, high school baseball, pro ball, that you can learn from these wacky plays, which is what we do as broadcasters, which is why we do this Crafting the Call.
Yeah, Josh, I'm really glad to learn from you.
I'm glad the umpires taught me.
Well, this is a worthwhile postscript. We're talking about finishes. This was the way to finish.
Yeah.
Until the next one.
Yes, until the next one.
For Josh Suchon, the voice of the Albuquerque Isotopes, I'm Jesse Goldberg-Strassler with the Lansing Lugnuts. This has been Crafting the Call.